Hello everyone, I am Cindy Winget, the author of Gothic Horror Mashups. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 25 books I want to read in the year 2025. Now this was extremely hard to whittle down to only 25 books because there's so many books out there that I really want to get my hands on and really want to read. Unfortunately, I probably won't even get to all of these 25 books this year because I have other plans for my channel and I'm a seasonal reader and all these different things. But these are the ones that I'm really hoping to get to this year. So I tried to pull some books from every genre that I read. So we're going to go ahead and start with horror. I have 2 YA books and then 2 adult books. So the first one is by Alex Bell and it's called The Lighthouse. And this is about a haunted lighthouse where these 2 sisters, Jess and Rosie, go to this lighthouse to visit their father for the summer and be with his new family after the divorce. And so they get there and they realize that there's something wrong with this lighthouse. Not everything is what it seems to be. And then one day Rosie goes missing. She disappears and her sister Jess is the only one that even remembers Rosie. And everybody else is like, Rosie, who's that? I don't know who you're even talking about. And so it's up to her to try and find her sister. So I absolutely adore Frozen Charlotte by this author, and so I was really anxious to read something else by her. And then I have These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall, and this is also a haunted house book, I believe. So this girl, her and her mom are poor, and they haven't talked to their extended family for years. There was apparently some bad blood there. But then when her grandfather passes away, he leaves everything to her. The house, the grounds, his money, everything. But the one caveat to this is she has to go to Harrow House, which is his mansion, and she has to stay there for 1 year or she doesn't inherit anything. So she has to stay at this house, which, you know, for her in the beginning is like, well, that's no problem. Live in a mansion for a year? Oh no, how terrible, you know. But when she gets there, she realizes that I don't know if this is a haunted house or if it's just like something else is going on, but she finds like some holes that are dug in the woods and she starts to feel sick when she's in the house. So I don't know if it's a haunting or if maybe there's something else happening, but either way, something's happening with this house that is not good. So I hear mixed things about this one, but it sounds really good to me, so I'm excited to get to it. And then my 2 adult horror novels is This Cursed House. I know you're seeing a pattern. I love haunted house stories. I love gothic stories. That's one of my favorite horror tropes. So yes, the first 3 books are all haunted house books. But anyways, it says, in the Southern Gothic horror debut, a young Black woman abandons her life in 1960 Chicago for a position with a mysterious family in New Orleans, only to discover the dark truth. They're under a curse, and they think that she can break it. So I love Gothic stories. I love stories set in New Orleans, so I'm very excited for this one. Sounds really up my alley. And then we have It Will Only Hurt for a Moment by Delilah S. Dawson. And this is about a group of artists that go to this artist retreat, and they have all the time in the world to paint and sing and do pottery and whatever their hearts desire, basically. And so she is there for pottery. But one day when she is digging a kiln for her pots, she discovers a dead body. And ever since she discovered that dead body, mysterious things have been happening at this artist colony where basically, you know, people sing the same song over and over and over and over. Or one person who's doing calligraphy ends up with ink stains all over their mouth every day. Or, you know, somebody else will knit until their fingers bleed, you know, or stuff like that. So discovering this body apparently brought up some kind of evil curse or something. Okay, so the next 2 aren't really horror. They're more like morbid historical fiction. So the first one is YA, and it's called The Corpse Queen. And yes, this is my profile picture, but I haven't actually read it. So I really need to do so. I just loved the cover, I loved the title, and the premise is right up my alley. So that's why I used it as my profile picture, even though I haven't read it yet. Shame on me. But hopefully I will rectify that this year. So this is about a girl who is orphaned, and she's at a church orphanage, and they tell her that some mysterious aunt has suddenly come out of the woodworks. And she thinks this is bullcrap. She thinks that the orphanage has sold her to be a maid to this mysterious woman, but only to find out that it really is her aunt. And not only is it really her aunt, but she's wealthy. And so this is really exciting for her. And so this is an unmarried woman during Victorian times when women couldn't make a living on their own, usually without being a sex worker. But she discovered that she could make money on her own by becoming a grave robber and selling those bodies to medical students. So that's what her profession is, and she starts to teach her young niece her trade. But then in the city, all of these missing girls, their bodies start popping up around the city. So now she's trying to discover what's happening to these missing girls. Like I said, sounds right up my alley, and it's really one that I need to get to. And then this one is an adult novel, but the premise is kind of similar. It's that, Victorian macabreness to it. So this is called The Specimen. And I just recently read The Girl in the Shadows by this duo authorship, and I loved it. 5 stars. It was so good. And so I'm excited to read something else by them. So this is about a woman who becomes an assistant to a surgeon, and he has all of these like oddities and medical specimens in his house, and it's up to her to catalog them and take care of them and different things. But one day she discovers a jar with an infant's heart in it that has like a heart defect, and her young son went missing a few months ago, and he happens to have this same malady, and it's very rare. And so she is convinced that this specimen that her boss has is the heart of her son who went missing. So now she's trying to discover if this is true or not. Sounds really cool, sounds really interesting. So like I said, I loved the other book by this author, so I'm very excited for this one. So the next 2 are kind of more horror adjacent. I think there's more like dark fantasy rather than horror. They're both YA, and the first one is The 13th Child by Erin Craig. I love Erin Craig. The House of Salt and Sorrow and Small Favors were both 5 stars for me. Loved them. So I was very excited to get my hands on this. So this is about a girl whose godfather is death. And so she's the 13th child, and ever since she was born, she knew that she was destined to become the ward of death. And so he gives her a special gift, and she can actually heal and deduce exactly what people need to be cured of their maladies. But this is a double-edged sword, because she can also see who has like death's stamp on them and who's going to die. And it's her job to end them for death. And so, she does a lot of good, but she also has to kill people, and that weighs heavily on her soul. So she ends up at court, and she meets the young prince and kind of has a crush on him. But then all of a sudden this young prince ends up with death's mark upon him, and it's her job to kill him. But obviously she doesn't want to, because she's in love with him. And so she's trying to go against death's wishes and keep him alive. So sounds very fun, sounds very up my alley. It's kind of chunky though. It's like 500 pages. But that's only a hindrance if I don't like it. That can be like really long and boring if I'm not interested. But if this is as good as I hope it is, then I'll probably just fly through it and be glad that there's more to read. And by the way, I just love this cover. I think it's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful covers, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace. And this seems a little bit similar to The 13th Child, because this also has death in it. But this girl, she's an orphan, and she goes to live with her extended family at this like creepy Gothic mansion. And her family are grieving the loss of their mother. But then one day she meets the spirit of their mother who had passed away, and the spirit is claiming that she was poisoned. And she feels like the only way to uncover her killer is to essentially have a pact with death. So it sounds pretty interesting. I hear really good things about it. It's part of a trilogy. I own all 3 books, so I hope I like this, because I already have the other 2. But we shall see. And then the next one is just a straight up fantasy, and I just barely got it in my Book of the Month Club book box, and it's called Bloodguard. And I love these sprayed edges, very beautiful. And I love the inside. Isn't that so cool? You have like this gladiator, and it looks like he's defeated like some kind of dragon or mythical creature, which is essentially what this book is about a gladiator, and he's trying to get money to help his sick sister. But, you know, once you become a gladiator, the emperor or kingdom or whatever basically owns you. You're a slave to them, and so he's trying to get his freedom now. And he comes into contact with an elven princess that I think he's going to fall in love with. And it just sounds really fun and interesting. I don't really read a lot of fantasy anymore, but this one has caught my eye, and I'm hoping to really enjoy this one. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the thrillers. I have 4 YA thrillers that I really want to get to. The first one is That's Not My Name. I think about this a year or two ago, and it's been high on my TBR, but I just never seem to get to it. And I really want to, and then I just recently found out that there's another book. I don't think it's a sequel to this. I think it's just written by the same author. But either way, now that there's another one, I'm like, okay, I really need to get to this so I can now read the other one. I hear really good things about this, but essentially we have this girl who went missing, and then she's discovered walking into the police station, but she has no memories of who she is or where she comes from. And then this man shows up claiming to be her father, but she's kind of leery that this man is actually her father, or if he has nefarious goals in mind. So very interesting, and like I said, I've heard good things about it, so I really want to get to this soon. And then we have None Shall Sleep. I've heard this is like a YA version of Silence of the Lambs, so I really like all the Hannibal Lecter movies. I haven't read the books, but I do like the movies, so reading a YA spin on that might be fun. And it also really reminds me of The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, because you have like this group of teenagers that's helping the police track down serial killers and stuff, and that's the same premise as that series, and I really enjoyed that series a lot, so that's what I'm hoping to get out of this one. And this one also has a sequel, so I need to get to it. And then we have Four Found Dead by Natalie Richards, and this one almost sounds like a slasher, but I think it's classified as a thriller. But anyways, it might toe the line between horror and thriller. This teenage girl, she works at a movie theater, and one day the power goes out and they get locked inside the theater, and there's a killer on the loose, and they discover a dead body in the theater, and so they're all trying to escape. Sounds very fun. Sounds very fast-paced and interesting. I did read one other book by Natalie Richards, which is called 5 Total Strangers, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm hoping to enjoy this one as well. And then we have Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson, and this is the same author that does the Truly Devious series, and I absolutely adore that series. Well, at least the first 3 books I do. So I was very excited to read something else by her, and this is about a girl who takes a summer job on an island giving tours for this historical home built in the 1920s. But then the person that gave her the job and brought her to the island goes missing, and so now she's trying to discover what happened to them. I like the 1920s. I like, being on an island. I like the whole teenage sleuth thing, so I'm excited to get to this one. I hope I enjoy it as much as Truly Devious. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. Okay, so now we're going to do the adult thrillers, starting with Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, and I've only read one book by this author. I can't remember what it's called. Something about a couple, the new couple or something. And I really enjoyed it. It had mixed reviews, but I personally really enjoyed it. And this is by far her most famous work. So I really am anxious to finally read this. I know it's been out for ages, and probably everybody else watching this video has already read it, but I have not. Speaking of books that everybody else in the world has read but me, I really need to read You by Carolyn Kepnes. I've really been wanting to watch the TV series, but I really want to read the book first, but I just keep not getting to it. So I really, really, really want to get to this year. Okay, so if you saw my TBR game video, I had 2 books from that video that I wasn't able to get to, and so I'm hoping to get to them this year. They're both really summary, so maybe this summer I'll get to them. The first one is One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. And this is about a reality TV show about these couples go to this island and then take part in this reality TV show to show like who's the best couple. But then of course a storm happens and they get stranded on this island. But none of the staff were on the island at the time, so everybody else is gone except for the contestants, and it kind of turns into a survival story. So I love the whole reality TV show angle, and survival stories can be very intriguing or they can be pretty boring and repetitive, so I'm hoping it doesn't go that route, but we shall see. I'm hoping to get lots of drama out of these couples. And then we have Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. I honestly don't remember what this book is about. I love the cover so much because it reminds me of Goonies, and I love Goonies. Obviously, it's not going to be anything like that, but that's just what the cover gives me. But I think it takes place on an island as well. And I really do like Catriona Ward's writing style. And like I said, it's very summery vibes, and so I'm hoping this summer to get to this one, but I apologize, I don't actually remember what this is about. And then another book that was all the rage all over the internet that I personally never got to, which makes me so sad, is The Quiet Tenant. So I really hope to get to this one. This one is about a serial killer, and it's about 3 women in his life. The first one is his daughter, and then the second one is his victim, and then the third one is a local restaurant owner who becomes his love interest, so his new girlfriend essentially. So this is told by their perspectives, all about this man who is a serial killer, and his wife passed away, and so him and his daughter moved to a different town to start over. But unbeknownst to his daughter, he has one of his victims locked in the basement or in a shed or something, and so he has no choice but to take her with him, but he can't do that without his daughter knowing what's going on. And so he's counting on the fact that she's too brainwashed to think of escaping, and he introduces her to his daughter as a family friend that's kind of down on her luck and is going to be living with them for a while. So that sounds very interesting. So I'm very anxious to get to this one soon. And then we have The Drowning Woman by Robin. This is about a woman who's down on her luck and ends up losing her house and becomes homeless. And then one day she watches this woman dive into the ocean, and she goes in to rescue her, only to find out that this woman was trying to commit suicide and was furious at her for preventing it because she's in the abusive marriage and this was her one chance to escape. And so they kind of strike up a friendship, and she's begging her to help her get away and to escape and to become someone else. But and nothing ever goes as planned. So I've heard really good things about this. I've only read one book by Robin Harding. I think it was called The Birthday Party or something, or maybe just The Party. And I didn't personally like that book, but because the premise sounds so good and the cover is so good, I just want to give her another chance to wow me. So hopefully this will be a good one. Okay, so that's all of the thrillers I have. So now we're going to take a turn and go to science fiction. So the first one is Ship of Fools, and this is about a generational ship that has left Earth in search of a better planet, and they've been searching for centuries and generations trying to find a habitable planet and haven't been able to find anything until one day they get this signal from a nearby planet and think that there might be alien life there, and so they go there and apparently get embroiled in some kind of alien mystery. I hear this has a little bit of horror elements to it, and I think it has some religious stuff to it, I'm not sure. But sounds good, sounds intriguing. I'm excited to read it and see what it's all about. This next one I really should have read years and years ago. This is a staple in science fiction, and I have never gotten to it. It's a classic, and I am talking about Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I know, I haven't read this one yet. Shame on me. So the only thing I know about this is a science fiction version of the Canterbury Tales, and I think it has some time travel involved, and they talk about this creature known as the Shrike who's supposed to like give them all the answers to life or something, but some people like worship him, some people want to destroy him. So I don't know what all is going on with him, but that's basically all I know about this book. Is it's kind of more like short stories that are all connected into one novel. I don't know. But like I said, this is a classic. Everybody that's into science fiction has and should have read this apparently, so I need to get on it. And then this next one is a series starter, and this is Wool by Hugh Howey. So this is part of a trilogy. This is a dystopian novel, and it's about society who live in these big silos to get away from like the toxic air and the radiation and different things after the planet was destroyed. But after a few generations, some of the younger people are wanting to go outside and see if Earth can become habitable again. Whereas the adults are like, no, 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 you're going to die if you go out there. You just need to stay in these silos. So I know there is a TV series about this. I haven't seen the TV series, but it sounds really interesting. It's pretty thick, which, like I said about the 13th child, can either be a good thing or a bad thing depending on my enjoyment level. But it sounds interesting. I haven't read a dystopian novel for a long time, so it sounds like a good one to pick up. And then I am a huge, huge, huge fan of Dune. Dune and Ender's Game are my top favorite science fiction novels of all time. I have not read yet the newest one that just released last year, which is called Princess of Dune. So obviously Frank Herbert is no longer around. He passed away, and so this is a novel written by his son and Kevin J. Anderson. And I don't know exactly what this is about, other than I believe it's about Arulon, which is the emperor's daughter, and then Chani. So that's Paul's Fremen wife, basically, their concubine or whatever. They came out with one about Leto, and it was very much a filler. You don't need to read it. And then they came out with one about Jessica and then another one about Paul. And I ended up skipping those ones because I'm just not that interested in it. But when I saw this one, Princess of Dune, I really like Chani and I absolutely adore this cover. And so I thought I would give it a shot. Probably it's going to be more of a filler, to be honest, but I just love being in that world again, and I'm excited to get to this one, hopefully this year. And then the last two books are romance novels. And the first one is part of a series. It's actually the fifth in a series. So you would have to go back at the beginning, which is called The Lady and the Highwayman. But this one is called The Queen and the Knave. This is by Sarah Eden. And this is set in Victorian times, and it's about a group of writers that write penny dreadfuls. And they decided to start this society called the Dread Penny Society. And basically they try to help people in Victorian society that normally would not receive a lot of help, like foundlings or, women who are down on their luck and don't have a man in their life to help them, or people that are being abused, or things of that nature. They just want to help the poor, they want to help the needy, they want to do good in the world. But their front for doing this is this Dread Penny Society where they write penny dreadfuls. And then, there's a little bit of romance going on in each book. And this one follows, I don't know how to say her name, Morin. I don't know. It's an Irish name, and it's got a couple of accent marks, so I don't know how to say this name. But I think it's Morin Donnelly. And I don't think she's a writer of penny dreadfuls. I think she's more of like an assistant to the society, but I'm not sure. Can't remember. But people from the Dread Penny Society start to go missing, and so she goes to the chief inspector and has him help her find these missing people while trying to keep the secrecy alive of the society. But she starts falling for the chief inspector and kind of starts falling in love with him. So anyways, I'm excited to get to this one. The rest of the series I read like a few years ago, and so the details are kind of hazy, so I'm hoping I remember all of the characters and the storyline and what's going on, since this is the last in the series. But I think it will come back to me as I read, hopefully. But I've really enjoyed this series a lot, and I'm excited to finish it out. And then the last book pains me to no end that I haven't read it yet. And that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I absolutely love Emily Henry. And I'm so shocked that I have not read this one yet, but I'm planning to read this in February because it's Valentine's Day, and so, you know, I need to at least read one romance. So I'm planning on reading this one next month. But this is about a girl who's engaged to this man, but just before the wedding, he's like, oh, actually, I'm in love with this other girl. And so she's like, what the heck? And so she is now essentially homeless because she's kicked out of the apartment and she can't find another one. And she runs into this other guy who happens to be the ex-boyfriend of the girl that her fiance left her for. So her fiance broke up with her and his girlfriend broke up with him so that they could be together. And so now she's without an apartment and he's like, well, we're in the same situation. Why don't you just come be my roommate? We can live together. And so she does. And then romance ensues. But anyways, I think it sounds really fun, really exciting and interesting. And like I said, I love Emily Henry. There's only one book of hers that I didn't like, and that was People We Meet on Vacation. But everything else I've read from this author I really enjoyed. So I'm excited to get to this one. And that's it. That's all the books. That's all 25 books I want to get to in the year of 2025. Hopefully I can do it, fingers crossed. Please let me know in the comment section below what books you are excited to get to this year. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave me a like to let me know that you liked this video. I post every Friday and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.